Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. So today's video is going to take us around the 4th of October. We'll also have a look at the CFS V2 for the next month. That takes into the second half of October. We'll begin by having a look at what's happening in the tropical Atlantic in terms of storms and that kind of thing. But before we do anything else, I'm going to give a mention to our latest patron and donor for Gav's Bits. So we've had a patron. We're up to 28 patrons now, and Neil Robinson has become Gav's latest patron. So a big thank you to Neil for becoming the latest patron for Gav's. As I say, we're up to 28 patrons now. A big thank you to all of the patrons for Gav's. At the same time, we also had a donation from Andrew Barker. So again, a big thank you to Andrew for donating to Gav's and just a big thank you to all of the patrons and all of the donors for Gav's. If you would like to join Neil and become a patron for Gav's, then all you have to do is come to the Gav's Patreon page, and we link to this at all of the pages at Gav's and in the description at YouTube. So you just sign up for a Patreon account, and then you can pledge whatever amount of money you would like to give us from an ongoing monthly donation, and it can be anything as little as $1 a month, so it doesn't have to be a large amount of money whatsoever. But by doing that, you become a patron for Gav's and you'll get a mention in the video, and a big thank you for becoming Gav's latest patron. So alternatively, if you would just prefer to give a one-off donation, then you can join Andrew and many others and give us a one-off donation through the Gav's paypal.me page. So this is it. I'm on the Gav's PayPal.me page right now, and again we link to this at all the pages at YouTube and in the description box. Link to this at the description box YouTube and all the pages at Gav's. And again, this is just a one-off donation, so a big thank you to all of the donors and all of the patrons for Gav's. You will get a mention in the video. You'll get a thank you in the video if you want to, and if you would rather stay anonymous, a few people have chosen to do that, then just give us a little note with your donation saying that you would rather not have a mention, and we'll just say thank you to this anonymous person. You'll know who you are, but that's not a problem if you would rather stay anonymous and not have your name announced in videos. And also could be that you would rather not have your name mentioned, but you might want to have your website or business mentioned. That's absolutely fine as well. If you would rather give your donation through your business or website, whatever, then we're happy to do that for you as well. Give a mention, give a plug to your website or business or whatnot. And a big thank you to all the patrons and all the donors for Gav's. It's helping us to pay for our website, so it's helping us to keep all of the content completely free of charge. We don't have to worry about making anything pay-per-view. That's not going to be happening at all. It's just to help us fund the website, add an extra revenue stream. We're primarily ads funded, but ad revenues are declining all the time these days, so it just helps to give us an added sort of revenue stream to help fund the website and keep the content totally free of charge. So a big thank you to all of the patrons and all of the donors for Gav's, those that have donated and become patrons, and those still to come. Big thank you to all of you. Right, so we'll start off with the video, and we'll begin by having a look at what's happening in the tropical Atlantic. We've got 3 areas of interest. We've got this yellow X just here, so we'll start with that one first of all. That's disturbance 1. It's a broad area of low pressure located midway between Bermuda and the Bahamas. It continues to produce a limited amount of shower and thunderstorm activity. Environmental conditions are forecast to become slightly more conducive for development during the next day or so, while the system moves west-northwestwards. And by Tuesday night into Wednesday, upper-level winds are expected to increase, limiting the chances for additional development, while the low-pressure system moves northwards near the southeastern coast of America. It's got a low 30% chance of becoming a tropical storm the next 2 days, and a medium 40% chance of becoming a tropical storm in the next 5 days. At the moment, don't need to worry too much about that, but obviously we do need to keep an eye on it. Then we've got Kirk down here. This is tropical depression Kirk, and it has sustained winds of around 35 miles an hour. Let's see what's happening with Kirk. So actually going to be a strengthening taking place with Kirk over the next few days. So this is the current position of tropical depression Kirk just here. By tomorrow it's up to a tropical storm, tropical storm Kirk, and then tropical storm Kirk will move into the southern part of the Caribbean towards the end of the week. That's its position, forecast position on Friday, and then by the weekend it's forecast to be somewhere south of the Dominican Republic and back down to a tropical depression then. So need to keep an eye on that. It doesn't look like it's going to strengthen more than a tropical storm, but obviously we'll have to watch what's happening with that. And then we've also got tropical storm Leslie. So let's just see what's happening with the winds with Leslie. Tropical storm Leslie is giving sustained winds of 40 miles an hour at the moment. Not really going very far over the next few days. That's the current position of tropical storm Leslie, and Leslie's just going to sort of move from west to east and be around there through the middle part of the week as a post-tropical storm. So at the moment we've not got too much to worry about in the tropical Atlantic. We have got 3 areas of interest, but we haven't got any particular hurricane, and what systems we have got look like they're relatively far away from sort of populated areas at the moment. So we'll continue to monitor what's happening in the tropics over the next few days and weeks, of course. Right, coming back closer home, these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from the Penn State University. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, the GFS, which have a look in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 85 feet is an area in the absolute high pressure, low pressure, being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates to high pressure, blue to low pressure. The ECMWF shows a large area of above average height centred over top of the UK in the 7 to 10 day time frame. This is taking us into the early part of October, of course. The jet stream is going through something like that. So we're back to high pressure. It's a case of high and dry again with the weather as high pressure builds back in. We're going to see a return of mainly dry conditions this week, and these mainly dry conditions look like they're going to last through into next week as well. So we've had a lot of high pressure influences over the past few months. It really all started back in May. Have had some interruptions to these high pressure conditions. For example, last week was relatively unsettled, but very quickly, when we have these unsettled periods, they're only brief, and we're very quickly finding ourselves getting back into high pressure, and we're doing it again. We're back to high pressure dominated weather through to the start of October, and the GFS is identical, so both models are in agreement with this big area of high pressure centred over top of the country, the flow and the jets going like that. So again, we're dominated by high pressure. There will be a lot of dry weather coming in with that. Now, last week there was a suggestion we might have some colder conditions through the early part of October. At the moment, these colder conditions are being pushed in towards Scandinavia and northeastern parts of Europe via that trough just there that's pulling down colder conditions into Scandinavia and northeastern Europe. However, under this ridge of high pressure, it isn't necessarily going to be all that warm. It will depend greatly on the exact sort of nature of the air mass associated with the high pressure as to whether it's a warm high. It can still be pretty warm even into October. You can get temperatures well into the 20s. Or whether it's a cold high. If it's a cold high, then what you'll find is daytime temperatures are kind of pleasant in the sunshine, but nights could get quite cold with ground frost, and also you would have to worry about mist and fog increasingly under high pressure as you go into October. You never really know in October. It's one of those transitional months. So you never really know in October whether a high pressure is going to be a warm high or a relatively cool high. It will always depend on the exact sort of nature of the high pressure, where it's come from, and what sort of soundings you have underneath the high pressure in terms of the upper air temperatures and the thicknesses and everything else. But we can say quite clearly high pressure is coming back and is going to be dominant in the next week to 10 days. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles the next couple of weeks. Looking at Cardiff today. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Cardiff. You can see we're pretty cold with those upper air temperatures at the moment, below average, but we're going to be lifting them up through the middle and second half of the week before we drop down closer to average. So from an upper air temperature perspective, it does get quite warm for a time for the middle part of the week. Then there's a cool down towards the end of the week and into the weekend. But the question is that cool down enough to generate a cold high pressure, or will it still be a relatively warm high pressure? We won't know until closer to the time frame. In the more extended range, going through the first week of October into the second week of October, quite a split really within the GFS ensembles, but overall the upper air temperatures are holding up rather above average. But again, that doesn't necessarily reflect what will be happening underneath that high pressure on the surface. What we can quite clearly see is that it's very dry, so there's no precipitation to come through the rest of this week in Cardiff, and even through the first week of October, very little precipitation to be seen. Only right at the very, very end do we start to get some rainfall spikes coming through. So it does look as though we're entering into another pretty prolonged dry spell. How often have we said that over the past few months? Temperature anomalies are actually coming out a little bit cooler than average from the 24th of September to the 2nd of October. It's not a big deviation, but certainly no real signs of anything desperately warm coming up. Except across Spain and Portugal, it does look hotter down there, but through most places, actually, the temperature anomaly is holding up around or possibly even a little bit below average, particularly through Central Europe and back to the UK and Ireland. Precipitation anomalies are coming out drier than average in the weekend, significantly so. 24th September to 2nd of October. Again, coming out very, very dry. Indeed, another prolonged dry spell looks like it's setting up. That's how the GFS looks for Thursday. Then we've got high pressure dominating its position across Central Europe, so beginning to bring up some slightly warmer air from the south here, and that warmer air could lift temperatures into below 20 Celsius through Wednesday and Thursday down in the south. Excuse me. Then we go through to Friday. The position of high pressure just changes a little bit, moves to the west of the UK and starts to pull down some slightly cooler air from the north. So that's that drop in the temperature that we saw within the GFS ensembles. It's not a dramatic drop, but it will lower the temperature back closer to average at the end of the week. But high pressure continues to dominate right the way through into next week. We've got high pressure conditions well and truly in charge, sitting over or possibly just a little bit to the west of the country. We're going up to day 10. High pressure remains in control. That's how we look at day 10, Thursday, 4th of October, with high pressure dominant. So that could either be dry and warm, or it might be dry and rather cool. You can't really say this early, and it depends whether we're having clear nights, whether the nights are getting cold. If they're getting cold, we might be generating mist and fog, which will limit temperatures by day. It looks pleasant enough, though. If sun comes out, I imagine temperatures will at the very least be into the mid to possibly even upper teens Celsius with that. And then this high pressure fest just goes on into extended range. So by the time you get through to the very end of the GFS run, which is Wednesday, the 10th of October, the high pressure is in over top of the country. A little bit more of a east-northeasterly flow coming in from that. So cooler air is coming out of Scandinavia. But the same essential pattern continues, which is very dry and high pressure dominated weather through into the second week of October. Could be that the models are going a little bit over top with this high pressure signal, I have to say. You remember back at the start of September, a lot of the model output was for continuous high pressure to be dominating for much of the month. It actually hasn't turned out to be quite that straightforward, and we have had relatively unsettled interludes during this September, particularly so for northern areas. So it might be that the models are going too far with this high pressure, but certainly the GFS is very set on high pressure dominating right way through to 2nd second week of October. ECMWF looks like that. So again, same idea, quite warm on Thursday, but by Friday, cooler air coming down from the north as that high pressure locates to the west of the UK. High pressure dominating over weekend and into next week as well. We just keep these high pressure charts going. That's how we look at day 10. The high is firmly in over top of the UK. So mainly dry, probably cold nights with maybe mist and fog, but reasonably pleasant days. And no sign of any rain through the first week of October on that run either. GM, same idea. We're starting off quite warm on Thursday, but by Friday into weekend, it's a bit cooler as high pressure repositions. Then it goes a little bit more unsettled. This is Sunday, 30th of September. That high pressure just pulls out a little bit more into the middle of the Atlantic bed, allows a cold front to come down from the northwest. That freshens the wind and probably brings some showery rain. The other two models don't really show that. And then as we go up to day 10 and get to day 10, again, it just looks a little bit more unsettled with the GM, particularly so for northern parts of the country, still mainly dry down in the south. But the main thing with this is that the GM is always a little bit different, and it tends to be the GFS and the ECMWF that we go with, particularly when those two models are in agreement, such as they are at the moment. So the GM looks a little bit over top with the jet stream and with those low pressures from off the Atlantic. Finally, just having a look at CFS V2 for the next month. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period takes us from the 24th through to the 30th of September. The coming week has above average heights centred almost over the top of the country, below average heights up to the north. The jet stream is up there somewhere, so a lot of dry and settled conditions. Not overly warm because the air is coming from the northern part of the Atlantic, so southerly influence to the air, so probably near normal temperatures, maybe a little bit on the cool side, but a lot of dry weather will be enjoyed with that. Then we go through to week 2, which is the first week of October. It's the 1st to the 7th of October. The above average height is just a little bit further south, but low pressure to the north, a little bit further south as well. Just a little bit more influence from the jet stream. So that's a slightly more unsettled week for the north. Still mainly dry, I would have thought, in the south. Again, the air is coming from like southern Greenland, so it isn't overly warm. In fact, it might be a little bit chilly, particularly up in the north. Week 3, 500 millibar heights from the 8th to the 14th of October, with above average heights again going a little bit more further south again, low pressure up to the north. And there's a flow coming in from the northwest, quite unsettled now for northern parts of the country. And even in the south, you'd probably start to bring some showery rain through. Temperatures probably quite cool. And then week 4 looks like that, with below average heights to the north and also to the east. Above average heights down to the southwest. Flow on the jets going something like that. Probably, again, quite cool, quite unsettled conditions, particularly for northern parts of the country. Temperature anomalies in the week ahead, the 24th to 30th of September, coming out cooler than average. And then week 2 temperature anomalies from the 1st through to the 7th of October, also coming out cooler than average. Week 3 temperature anomalies from the 8th to the 14th of October, they're cooler than average as well, so quite a cool time of it coming up actually with CFS. And then week 4, the 15th to 21st, that one also cooler than average. So it's been a while since we've had such a protracted run of cooler than average temperature anomalies. Precipitation wise, the coming week is drier than average, significantly so. Week 2, it's a little bit wetter than average to the north, drier than average down in the south, so a bit of a north-south split there for the first week of October. Week 3 looks like it's turning just more generally a little bit more unsettled from the 8th to the 14th. And then week 4 comes out close to average as we lose the signal. So if the CFS is right, it looks like we're for quite a cool sort of time over the next 4 weeks. But it might, again, be going a little bit over top with that signal. I suspect it won't be as dramatically cool as that showing. I think the main emphasis of anything we have to concentrate on is for next week to 10 days, which look like they're going to be very high pressure dominated. So lots of dry weather coming up through the early part of October. And again, under that high pressure, it could get quite warm, But at nights, it could be pretty chilly now. We're getting late into the year, so if the skies are clear under high pressure in October, it will get quite chilly, unless you've got some sort of southerly wind bring the air up from Spain or somewhere like that. Then you can offset those clear skies. But generally, particularly when high pressure is located over the top of the country at this time of year, nights will start to get quite cold, and you can start to generate mist and fog patches as well. But the emphasis is on high pressure, and it's on dry conditions, staying high and dry really through the first week of October. Where we go beyond that, we'll have to wait and see. Right, tomorrow we're going to have the ECM doing our 30-day look ahead, and we'll also have a week to 10-day update as well. So come back for all of the updates tomorrow. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.